morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. It's election day tomorrow, supplementary elections, tying up the loose ends where matters weren't concluded. We need to get conclusive. My guest this morning, Dr. Jide Johnson, Deputy Provost, NIJ. Thanks for coming as always. People really, I've got some feedback that, I love it when Dr. Johnson is on. He's going to be so analytical. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Because people will now be watching and listening extra specially.
That's supplementary compliment. It's a supplementary Good morning to our viewers at home. And good
Thank you very much. And Mr. Jimmy Abia. Actually, Mr. Abia is from Imo State. I like that. I like that joke.
Interesting one.
He's Mr. Abia, but he's from Imo. Jimmy Abia is a lawyer and is a political affairs analyst. Thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure being with you this
morning. Okay, we got our correspondents, as always. We got them all over the place. Particularly, well, maybe I shouldn't have said the word particularly, but our man, Ayo Ozubaku, he's in Kano, and we'll be hearing from him in the course of the program. He's Hancho, our political, correspondent Hancho, and he'll be letting us know what's going on. It's not the only place. We were to start off, Bauchi is an issue. It's one of the, 16, 17, 18, depending on how they name it. 17?
18 states. 18 states. We are going to have supplementary elections to conclude all the election will start in February 25.
Okay.
But the key states we are looking at in terms of the gubernatorial elections are Bauchi, Sokoto, Adama, which has been postponed indefinitely as a result of court order, Rivers, which will get a clear feedback by the 5th of April, because INEC has said that between 2nd and 5th of April, they will do the collation and they will announce when supplementary election. In action, since they projected the date, they've talked about April 9th. Then we have Sokoto State, we have Kano State, and then we have Plateau State and Benue State. So these are the states in which you have supplementary elections, or where elections have not been concluded and where gubernatorial candidates, governor-elect have not been declared. And hopefully, by the end of this weekend, we have a clear picture of what we have.
I really hope so, because, Jimmy, we're almost heading for election fatigue. This thing is just drawing on and on and on. But
exactly, I wonder why we have to get to this point, because even if you look at the constitutional provision regarding this, because I've been looking at the constitutional provision and wondering what is the position, regarding the elections as they are being held at this time, because the Constitution provides in Section 178 that elections into the governorship position in these states must be held on or before 120 days. No, that is the Constitution as amended. As amended, it used to be 30 days before the end of the tenure of the last person, and at most 60 days before the end. And then, but now with the amendment, it is 120 days before the end of the tenure of the last holder of the office. So the question is, is INEC meeting up with this deadline as required by the Constitution? Because by the time these elections, would have held, in those dates, I hope it will not be an issue, which would make some candidates, come up in court to say that the Constitution was not complied with.
Well, let me come in here,
because from people are studying these things.
So let me talk. From my own layman point of view, I think that the process started at a particular date, and I think that INEC will stick to that fact that we started the election on March 9, and we couldn't complete the election. So the process has started. What the Constitution provided for, you must do the election, and they met that criteria by conducting the election on March 9, but there are issues concerning the elections, and they will complete the election, so that we don't provide rooms for people that want to truncate our democracy by running to the courts by night and getting injunction to truncate our democracy.
You have a very valid point. I think that would also come into the consideration of the court if such matters come before the court.
Okay. Why? Well, maybe we should just sort of talk about it a bit. The situation in Bauchi, for instance, where the PDP is threatening to boycott the election in Bauchi, APC is saying, what's the problem? We're ready. No doubt. And then the prevention of the declaration of results that are being collated. They now have a court order to say, don't declare the results, just go ahead and complete the elections, and then we'll know ahead. Again, is it the concern that...
One, no courts of the land. For example, the court cannot nullify the Constitution. The Constitution can be rendered unconstitutional through an amendment process. Now, no court can stop INEC from performing its statutory function. I think any issues that has to do, if we go into the legal terms, I'll just explain in a simple manner. Now, and I think this is where the role of the Attorney General of the Federation comes into play. Over this matter, I am not happy with the silence of the Attorney General of the Federation as the chief law officer of the Federation. He has a role to play concerning these various court orders that are coming from one court or the other, because his own interpretation and his own intervention would have helped. A memo from his office directing INEC to proceed, explaining the implications of the judgment in tandem with what the Constitution states will have helped matters. His silence is not helping matters. And I think these are areas we should be looking forward to in the next dispensation. Who becomes the Attorney General of the Federation is critical and is essential for the survival of democracy. And I think we need to call out the Attorney General on this matter.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to hear Jimmy's...
Don't forget that INEC has a legal department. INEC has a legal advisor within the department. INEC has its own lawyers. And I expect that they would be handling these functions. And you also know that the Independent National Electoral Commission, as the Constitution states, is independent. So it wouldn't be expected that the Attorney General would interfere at every point. And don't
because
forget,
it legally could be seen as interference.
Exactly.
Because I was going to bring up the question...
It could be seen as interference by the government in power.
Yes.
Or the government.
I was going to ask the question.
It's not
is there
expected
that possible
at every
interpretation?
Point the Attorney General would, come into
concerning
intervene.
this critical issue.
Concerning
his role,
you expect that the legal department...
Unless you're saying he's not a party
what
man.
organs of government is INEC part of? There are three organs of government: the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive. What organ of government?
INEC is part of the executive. Don't get
Okay,
this. Yes, part of the executive. However, it is an independent body. Independent in the sense that it is not, under the direct control of any particular
Then I'll ask you another question.
In the sense that the executive is not meant to interfere, in the daily running of the activities of INEC.
I'm not talking about the Minister of Justice now. I'm talking about the office of the Attorney General.
Well,
and I want the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. I want you to explain that
perhaps
to us.
You're talking about
that's a complication. That the fact that one man, and we've had this conversation in the past, that one man is wearing both caps. The Attorney General, the Minister of Justice. I've heard arguments, conversations that really the two should be separated. But I wanted to, when you were making the point, I was going to say that, look, the Attorney General, will he not be still seen as a party man? The Minister of Justice, Lai Mohammed, is the Minister of Justice, is also a party man.
Information. Lai Mohammed
Minister of Information is also a party man. So there are times when you...
treading a dangerous path. Just imagine Jide Johnson going to court to get one useless judgment. Injunction, stopping the inauguration of the president.
No judgment of the court is useless.
No. Quote unquote.
That was just a Nigerian word. You were looking at it like an English word.
Quote unquote, now that I go and stop the inauguration of the president, or I stop.
You meant frivolous judgment.
Are you getting my point? Or stop the collation of the result. Do you imagine the tension and the crisis that could have happened if someone had gone to court to stop the compilation or the collation of the presidential result that took almost 1 week before the completion of the process? We must, as a country, bring about sanity into the process. Otherwise, look, this is 2019.
The sanity is one thing, but as you will be among the first to argue, there also is the right of everybody to approach
the tribunal. There are processes. If any electoral issue is taken to the tribunal, Uncle Yori, if we go on this path, I can assure you in 2023,
But surely protest must be allowed. And I think this is one area where, if you want, this administration has been criticized a bit from within. That, look, the things you say, you hardly say them as a party kind of a person. In fact, sometimes it even will hurt things seen as your interest. But it would appear that the leadership is very concerned with being seen to be
neutral,
undemocratic, and not hampering any aspect of democracy, even though you can't satisfy your opponents, as they themselves have said. What are you talking about? APC is just working things out to its own benefit, and there are all sorts of hands of somebody and, writing of somebody. You hear all these things all the time. I don't know. You got to factor that in.
Let me just quickly add this.
It might not be convenient for the ruling party, but surely the opposition can't be
the role ABN played,
swept out of contention altogether.
We knew the role ABN played in 1992.
Yes.
We knew the
exploiting the court systems, right?
We knew the setback we had
I know.
as a nation. We knew many lives that were lost as a result of that judgment. We knew how the freest and fairest election ever in this country was truncated out of one judgment. You see, we must be cautious moving forward. Because if we are not, with the desperation of the political class, that will be exploited in 2023.
I agree with you that
yes.
we have to be quite cautious. And I agree with you, when you talk about the court, the kind of, some of the judgments coming from the courts. But I think we have to situate it well. If we are going to call for certain things to be done better, we're going to be putting it at the doorsteps of the judiciary, putting it at the doorsteps of INEC. I mean, INEC has a legal department. Like I said, INEC has a legal department that should advise INEC. Exactly. And INEC is also an independent body. So INEC should be able to take the proper decisions based on what the Electoral Act says and what the constitutional provisions, the Constitution provides. Then on the part of the judiciary,
need to be transparent while they're going about their business, right?
Exactly.
Because they're an arbiter.
Exactly. And then on the part of the court, you also situated there that, of course, the judgments coming from the court must take into cognizance the fact that there are provisions within the Electoral Act, provisions within the Constitution, and also the preservation, the interest of the preservation of the democracy we practice in the country.
Wouldn't one take that for granted? And this is the complexity of our society. I would have thought one could take that for granted with all the judges, that these judges are not just somebody you just go and put from anywhere. These people, apart from their professional training, they also, I imagine, have to be patriots as well. They have only one country. Yes. And so they're not going to do anything. I would have thought that the courts are not going to allow any one person to come and exercise his individual freedom to the detriment of the country, the integrity of the country.
Of course, that is
the judge has to have this at the top of his mind.
Of course, that is what you expect.
That you can't manipulate the system like this.
Yes.
So the ABN, the infamous ABM that Jide cited, that was a pathetic situation. We all, we saw the aftermath of it.
Justice Bazi Peme.
But there are those who are still saying that, well, the principle of democracy was upheld, and it might have been a dastardly use of it, but it was withheld. So all of this goes back to when you were saying that you would have wanted the Attorney General to intervene in the matter a lot more. Now, the whole problem, even though that's not where we started from, the Attorney General is also the Minister of Justice.
And also a party man.
And also a party man.
Uncle Yori, you remember June 12th? So to freshen our memory. So collation was going on. Collation of result was going on.
That was a different era.
Attempt
that was
to
a different era.
You see, because I said voting actually takes place at the polling unit. That's where the mandate is secured. Now, once that mandate is secure, it's sacred. For the next 4 years, nothing can invalidate that mandate, because at that polling unit, that's where you and I, Jimmy, goes to cast our vote. And once those votes are cast, they are valid for 4 years. Whoever polled the highest number of votes and meets the constitutional requirement becomes the governor for 4 years. Nothing can terminate his tenure. That's how sacred that polling is. So no court, no INEC official, nobody can stop that process once that process starts. And we must. These are the issues I keep emphasizing. We must take to the National Assembly. And I think that there will be a need for us to sit down as a nation. The need for a conference, a national conference, becomes clearer by the day, with a lot of issues that we need to address in our polity. Because you know, the 1999 Constitution was not even written by we the Nigerian people, was not even debated by we Nigerian people, was not even subjected to a referendum. It was a constitution that was a byproduct of the 1995 Constituent Assembly that was meant to perpetuate Abacha in power. It was a constitution that the president-elect of 1999 did not see until he was sworn in. And that's the constitution we are using. And it has its own defects. So moving forward, there are issues that we need to address moving this nation forward. Because I asked this question. By 2023, after President Muhammad Buhari finishes his tenure, what happened to this nation? Because we have, since 1999, we have been looking forward to the past, holding on to the past for us to sustain this democratic experience. 1999, we went back to prison to bring out Obasanjo. In 2015, we went back to Daura to bring President Muhammad Buhari. Now, 2023, where are we going to bring back again that has ruled this nation before? Who is that person that has the personality, that has the clout to hold this nation together? These are the challenges, and we must struck it out through our process.
Well, it's a very interesting point that you make. Maybe when 2023 comes, as you know, we started out with some unknowns. Maybe those unknowns, maybe the time will have come around where those unknowns that are not considered very much now, after all, there was a third, there was the first, there was a second, and there was a third, and nobody knew that third guy until we now started to recite, say, who is this guy? And then people began to explain how the whole matter happened. But look, it's not for nothing like those. I see that Jide is nodding and smiling wisely. Say, look, why are you making like you don't understand this country? I don't know. It's just the rhetorical question he has. That 2023, where are we going to go? I don't think we're going to have a problem.
Do we still have a head of state who hasn't taken another?
But wait a minute, guys. Serious matter. We have to. We can't be an island unto ourselves. The U.S. is commenting. I looked at the front page of the Punch this morning. They have highlighted it that they say they are disappointed in the low turnout of voters, as well as what they refer to as credible reports of voter intimidation. That's coming from the U.S. by way of commentary. You know. Fair comment, or
the U.S. doesn't have to tell us this. We know. We saw these things. We read them in the news. We watched them, and people were life witnesses, to these things. So we know that these things occurred. And
all of this, why we're talking about this is we're trying to evaluate what happened and how well our elections went or are going. And that's where what we're talking about now factors in.
We would have expected that Nigeria would have done better, that we would have had, a progression, positive progression.
Because we kept getting it
from
wrong.
What we have had in the past.
It wasn't very good with the presidents, with the presidential election. We said, don't worry, when it comes to governorship, it's different. It's a local election. Double slam. We had another low turnout.
Because of the desperation of politicians. You see, when politicians are desperate and they do certain things, you must, while we also put the blame on the doorstep of INEC, also we mustn't forget the fact that, because it is the politicians that send the boys who go and kill, it is the politicians that send the people who carry the ballot boxes and the other things. So it is because of this desperation. It is the politician that puts an INEC official, under duress, to declare him a winner. So it is politicians, and we must be able able to look at the kind of people we elect into office, I believe that Nigerians, if Nigerians punish politicians for, now apart from the law, there is this clamor that there should be an election offenses tribunal that should get people charged to court for these offenses and get them convicted. Now, but apart from that, Nigerians also should also punish politicians who take such measures. Now, when we hear or see that a politician has equipped people to mess up the process, yes, to cause mayhem, I expect that Nigerians, that people, the electorate should not reward him with their votes. And if politicians know that this thing will occur, they would sit up when future elections come up.
I don't know if this is very different from INEC insisting that there will be no certificate for Governor Korocha and others who allegedly were declared under duress. But before we come to that, in terms of let there be retribution and let us see it, our man Ayodele Ozubaku, he's in INEC headquarters in Kano. So good morning, Ayo. He's on the phone. Let's find out, Ayo, preparations. Give us a backdrop, please, to the elections in Kano tomorrow. Good morning, Ayodele. Ayodele Ozubaku. Well, our man is in Kano for sure. He's at INEC headquarters for sure. But I don't know. I think Ayo can't hear us right now. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Yori.
Okay, cool. I was just saying you couldn't hear, but I was just telling that you are the INEC headquarters in Kano, right?
Yes, Yori.
Okay, please give us a sort of backdrop, the state of preparation for elections tomorrow.
It's just the sensitive material going up now, and INEC, their headquarters here at Pilgrims Road, they are distributing the sensitive materials. Don't forget, this exercise, in as much as it's going to affect 29 local governments, but what they are saying is that there's going to be restriction of movement in 44 local governments, the entire 44 local governments in Kano State. That's between the hours of 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow. So what they're doing now is that those areas, like as I'm talking to you now, there's this particular place they call Nasarawa local government. Nasarawa local government is the densely populated local government that you have a lot of people, and the contest is going to be fierce in Nasarawa local government. So they've been distributing the materials and giving it to them. So Nasarawa local government is just very close to outskirts of Kano here, and we expect that by tomorrow that all the security officials and all the polling units and the total number of registered voters concerned in tomorrow's exercise, it's a little bit about 124,000 people that will actually participate in tomorrow's exercise. This might substantially improve or change fortune of both candidates of the two leading political parties. So what they are saying about Kano State now, Kano State is too close to call. Kano State is anything can happen because of the number of figures, the number of cancelled votes, which is up to 125,000 cancelled votes in those areas. So there's a lot of things to play for tomorrow in Kano.
But do you first of all, do you have an idea of what the outing was like the first couple of times around, and what is expected tomorrow? Because people are talking about voter apathy and that people might not come out. But the figures you're mentioning, and coupled with the fact that a bit of tension in the air, or shall I say apprehension instead of tension, what do you think tomorrow is going to be like in terms of attendance?
And what in the north here is a different ballgame. You can't compare the number of people that come out for election in the north here. If you look at the presidential results, when between Muhammadu Buhari and Atiku Abubakar, you could see President Muhammadu Buhari led with 1.4 million votes in Kano State alone. In 2015, the same President Buhari had 1.9 million votes in Kano State alone for an individual. So that shows you the level of political sophistication and awareness on the part of the people of Kano. They take it as a business. They take it as a big, big, big deal. They don't take anything for granted. And the atmosphere, everybody's talking about tomorrow's rescheduled election. Everybody's talking about it. And they are waiting with bated breath to see the outcome of tomorrow's exercise. So talking about apathy, there's nothing like that, no such thing in especially the northeastern part of Nigeria. When you start looking at the trend from the last presidential election, the governorship election, if you see the figures that were coming out for that thing, is nothing. Is nothing compared to what we had in the southwest or south or southeast. So these people, the people of the northeastern parts of the country, they are highly educated in terms of political sophistry.
Okay, you told us how many voters are, are there for the will be there for the exercise, at least in terms of registered voters.
124,000 people.
How many parties, actually, apart from the front?
Yes, it's expected. It's expected that those the political parties that actually participated, going to 51 political parties, that actually participated in the main exercise that was held 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ayodele Ozubakun. Enjoy yourself. No trouble in the horizon. No undue tension. It's just the excitedness of people there, right?
Yes.
All right, then. We'll be touching base with you. Thank you very much, Ayodele Ozubakun, a man in Kano State. There are other correspondents around the country as well, and as the day goes on, even beyond the program, you'll be hearing from them. We'll take a quick break now. Don't go anywhere, please. We'll be right back. We'll continue the conversation in studio, and we'll take your calls as well. Welcome back, Mr. Jimmy Abia, lawyer and political affairs journalist, analyst actually, lawyer and political affairs analyst, still with us, and also we got Dr. Jide Johnson, Deputy Provost, Nigerian Institute of Journalism. Thank you very much, sirs, for being on the program. Well, the U.S. says that, credible reports that there is this, there is that, intimidation, vote buying, interference by security and forces. INEC has said, well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but in their reckoning, looking at the front page of the Punch this morning, with the various reports released by all sorts of advisors, including local and international ones, the general election so far, they're a success. Not by any means perfect. Very, very little is perfect in this world. But they are, by and large, a success. Okay.
You see, some of the issues that are raised are not INEC problem. They are issues caused by the political party. INEC does not disrupt the election with the use of thugs. It's the political parties. And that's why I've spoken about how dysfunctional... And
INEC have long made this point.
How dysfunctional our party system. We operate a dysfunctional party system that even up to the point of the election, or even after the election, we just had over the week that a court ruled that the candidates in Delta State that contested the election for APC were not the candidates. And then when you look at in terms of voters' apathy, the parties are designed and created to mobilize people, for the party. So in terms of voters' participation in the process, and I think the parties need to go back to the drawing board and mobilize people. And how do you mobilize people? By getting people to participate in the process. You see, parties will close their membership register and not open their membership register because they don't want people to come into their party system. The parties should embark on a membership drive. Membership drive in communities, in units, get people involved. Now, I'll use Lagos as an illustration, for example. You have the community development associations. What role are they playing and the state is involved in getting them involved in administration. What role do they play in voters' education? What role do they play in voters' mobilization? Because for real democracy to succeed, you must have participation of the people. If you don't have participation, there's no democracy. Okay. That's why it's called representative democracy.
Oh, well, okay. Good morning, Cyprian, and thank you very much for calling in.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you very much.
Doctor, I greet your
guests
this morning, especially Dr. Jide.
And my friend Jimmy.
He's on point.
Okay.
I wanted to say something differently. I don't know why our politics at this stage, why our people, or probably the lawyers involved now, are not playing their roles properly. I mean, how can somebody go for an ex parte injunction or ex parte motion to stop a process? The lawyer is supposed to tell the person it is not supposed to be so. The INEC, in the course of process, you cannot stop the process that is going. Look at what happened in Bauchi. Election is almost concluded, and somebody did snatched the result. Does it mean that every other party there don't have the results? I mean, we are still not ready for democracy the way I look at things. we are supposed to be very, very, very ready for democracy, and then more so, parties also should stop. As the election has ended now, they should stop anybody who is not in their party, because if the win-win situation now will come up, you will see decamping now. So people will be decamping from one party to the other. It shouldn't be our style this time around. We should be ideology. We should bring in ideology into our democracy.
All right, Cyprian, thank you very much for calling in. Well, he went to the lawyers there. First of all, I don't know, being an officer in the Temple of Justice is one of the ways lawyers also phrase themselves. Do you think there's much to what he's saying that, look, why are the lawyers who are also supposed to be patriots? We said earlier that judges are supposed to be patriots. We take it for granted. Why not lawyers too? So why are the lawyers allowing themselves to be used to ferment all of this confusion?
You have a valid point, or rather he has a valid point. When you talk about some of these orders being procured from the courts, if the lawyers had advised their clients, who are these politicians and political parties properly, probably they wouldn't go to that extent of, filing actions in court and seeking for some of these orders, including ex parte orders. And there have been warnings. There have been
an ex parte, just for the sake of those who don't understand.
Means it means that the other party was not put on notice.
That
the other party was not aware
that they're looking for somebody in court, something in court that affects you, but
exactly.
you are not there.
And normally you do not give decisions, that conclude a matter ex parte. Ex parte is meant to last just for within a period of time. But you find out that the decisions that come up from this court are actually decisions that conclude the entire issue. For instance, if you say stop collation of results or stop an election that was meant to hold on a particular day, what have you done? You have actually stopped that entire process. You have actually made it impossible for somebody to be elected at that point. So you have actually concluded a matter that should have actually been allowed for the process to flow. And even with extant provisions of the law, especially the Electoral Act in this respect, saying that, okay, courts cannot stop an election which has been scheduled to hold. You still find, lawyers rushing to court and then getting some of these orders from the courts and several other instances. So there are blames. Lawyers also have the blame.
We're not ready yet. That let us not kid ourselves. If we were ready, we would not let these things be as they are.
I think we're beyond, legal niceties and, talking about amendments and how to make the laws better. I think we also need an attitudinal change because if the people who operate the process, this process doesn't run itself. It is people, human beings who operate the process. So if the people who operate the process do not sit up and do things right, you would hardly get it right.
Okay, one moment. Yakub, first of all, apologies for keeping you waiting. Good morning, sir. Go ahead, in Dokwemo.
Yeah, good morning, Chifiori. And then good morning to your guests. Jide Johnson, good morning, and then the other gentleman in the studio.
Mr. Jimmy Abia.
Mr. Jimmy Abia, thank you very much. Chifiori, you see, it is unfortunately that we are going to find ourselves in this kind of problem for the long time. Why? But Mr. Jide Johnson said something earlier, which is very germane and very, very important. You see, until we locality here, we people that stay in the locality participate in a party primary and all that, assuming that every party member pay at least minimum of 100 naira, they will focus on who become what in their locality, who do we send to National Assembly. Mr. Chifiori, we need to do something quickly. What is that? Is that our National Assembly need to move in now to amend the Electoral Act, especially whereby we vote today, and then before they conclude the counting of the ballot paper and all that, before we know who won the presidential election, take us almost a week. We need to amend that constitution. And then, Chifiori, one thing quickly is this: how much is the taking home of all these senator and House of Representatives members? We learned and then we read it on Twitter that maybe they are collecting 700,000 naira. But if we are in this country, one senator made mention that it take away of 13.5 million running costs. And then no Nigerian say something about that. Do you know that it's because of this money that all these people are going to the National Assembly? All these people, they want to become a governor, assuming the money that included this our process is too much. We have to demonetize our process. If assuming they pay them as they pay the ordinary civil servants, I can bet you, all these politicians, they are going there to get money. They will never close to that place because they are going there to make money.
Yes.
Thank you, God bless.
Well, thank you very much for calling it. It's a recurring decimal. What we should do with our politicians, it is too highly monetized. This is it's an ongoing conversation. I suppose we just leave that the way it is. But he went back to the point you made that people have to be involved. Yeah. And as one of the ways that we can begin to get this whole situation under control.
You see, I have said it. They've defined democracy as government of the people, by the people, for the people. But reality of the late 19th century and 21st century has shown that democracy is the government of the minority, perpetuated by the indecision of the majority that refused to vote on the day of the election. Let's take an example of Nigerian, for example. We have 84 million people. Only 15 million out of those 84 eligible Nigerians determine who becomes the president. We have seen states whereby just 400,000 people decided on who will run the affairs of the state for the next 4 years. And the only way we can strengthen representative democracy is to have the mass, that's to have the highest number of people participate in the process. So if majority of the people go out to vote on the day of the election, we strengthen our democratic institution. But you know what? They won't want you to come out to vote. That's why we frame it about using talks. I would rather, as a politician, quote unquote, in Nigeria, pay 10,000, 1,000 talks than bother my head with looking for 100,000 or 200,000 people, because I know if 10,000 talks can snatch 10,000 ballot box for me, I'm home and dry.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate, I'm home and dry. So we must be interested in how our party function and how we get people involved in this politics.
Okay, Comrade Ayo in Oshogbo, good morning.
Good morning to you, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning to Dr. Jide Johnson and Barrister Jimmy Abia.
My pleasure.
Good morning, comrade.
Uncle Yori, you see, until I want to align my position with Mr. Yakub that called earlier. Demonetize our politics. That is the only way we can get it right. See, the money involved, the take home involved in our political offices is just too much. That's why you see people doing everything, both legal and illegal, to make sure they get it. How can somebody sit down in his house and say he prefer to pay 10,000 talks instead of mobilizing and doing about 100,000 voters? See, that is the reason why we will continue to have this problem. That is why politicians will run down to the lawyer and say, go and get me this injunction at all costs. I want to do this, I want to do that. It's because of what is. And corruption is one of the basic things that is affecting us here in this country. If not so, if the process is okay and you know you cannot win an election, you come back in the next 4 years and try your luck. But when you know you cannot win an election, you know you can contract some talks and manipulate some electoral officials to make sure you win the election, then you will do it. You will sit down in your home. When you win election, you wait till the next 4 years to come out again, do the same thing you did in the last 4 years, and get away with it. Because people do things and get away with it in this country. That's why we continue to have problems. And again, the supplementary election. See, I just want to pray and believe that the process will be free, fair, and peaceful. Because we don't want to experience what happened during the Abacha and Babangida era. Because people going out this time and getting frivolous court injunctions, I pity our democracy. But I don't pray we go back to that, what happened during Babangida era. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Comrade, for calling in. The fact is, elections in Nigeria are probably like elections nowhere else. It is it is how we are. And it's ordinary to us, unfortunately. The way it has become is almost ordinary to us. People like you who travel all over the world will come and tell us how much of an almost non-event it is. The results are very, very important, but the actual execution is their INEX over there. They have a much easier job. Here we're still closing state borders. As one paper is highlighting this morning, just because elections are going on, you're closing borders, the idea being that you don't want people to cross. It's like you assume that people are going to take advantage.
I wanted to even mention it,
Sure.
Restriction of movement,
Closing
of borders.
Yes.
These things you don't find it in several other countries, especially in the developed world. Elections hold and people go about their regular activities. People go, they vote at their polling units, and then they go back home. At times, even they have to do the voting, through electronic media and medium, and it does not, call for locking up the entire system.
That's where there is trust. There is trust
period.
That things are going to be spick and span the way they should be. I don't think people concern themselves that is indeed the way. Let me bring in Mr. George. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to your guest.
Thank you for calling in.
Uncle Yori, the situation at hand makes me laugh sometimes. Many people want us to jump the process of our growth. We cannot jump beyond where we have grown to. We have to grow gradually. You cannot blame INEC for rescheduling these elections because that is the only way to minimize litigations. Look at a situation where somebody openly lost an election. He turns around, going about to say that he won the election by over 1.6 million votes, and that he hacked into INEC's server to discover the figures. A country where you see such situations, you have to follow due process. 93 parties, out of which more than 50 participated in governorship elections. If INEC does not follow this due process to the letter, what you will be seeing every day is litigations upon litigation. I remember INEC said in 2015 they had 62,000 cases, and that they don't have the money to prosecute those cases. So do you want them to add more to it? I think it is better the way they are going about it, so that by the time a final result is announced, it will be clear to all and sundry that due process was followed. Let's not bother about what America says. On the one hand, after the election, they joined other observers to say it was free and fair. They have gone back home to say it was marked by violence and all sorts of things. What do you deduce from that, Uncle Yori? They have a hidden agenda in this country, and I want person that condemns them for it, that they should stay away from our affairs and allow us to grow at our own pace. Thank you.
Okay.
You know, at one breath, we say the Western world should stay away from our affairs. At the other breath, we quickly run to the Western world for investment. I don't know the way we think in this part of the world. I can't imagine. One breath, you say they should not participate in your, and then one breath you now say they should have
people are trying to
foreign direct investment to come into your nation.
Wait, now people are trying to separate politics from the economy.
You can't separate. There's what is called political economy.
I know.
Politics shapes the economy. In actual sense, you know what Arolawe said? He said politics is who gets what, when, where, and how. It's politics that shapes everything.
Indeed.
The federal allocation, where do they go to do the federal allocation? The resources that come to state, what determines it, on glory? 774 local government, 36 states, including the federal capital territory. And the people are still saying that we should grow. After 20 years of democratic experience, and we are still growing.
Yes.
Okay.
So you are bemused by...
If you have a 20-year-old son, and he's still crawling now, Uncle Yori, a 20-year-old son, and that son is still crawling. There's trouble.
Mazi Okoroafo, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sayori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, our guest in the studio. You see, Sayori, at this stage of life or this level, Nigerian politics, we shouldn't be talking that Nigerian politics is just a child of necessity, or we are just entering politics. Because even with 10 years or 5 or 10 years or 15 years, a child should be balancing. Because if you check America, let's take America. America, when you are 18 years of age, your parents will send you away from the house. You can't manage your own life. But here in Nigeria, what are we seeing? Because we have failed to, that is what I would to face reality. I know that exactly what we need are people that are ready to do what, to continue what are the solid foundation. But the situation whereby this solid foundation is being distorted, either for one reason or another, that's to say, Nigeria should say bye-bye to sectionalism, bye-bye to this is our turn, bye-bye to tribalism, bye-bye to indigenous and non-indigenous. Let's face reality and move forward. But in summary, I'm just pleading to Nigerians, all those who will conduct the election tomorrow, people should come out and go and vote, and not to sit down and be complaining. And the youth, please, don't be a member of a weapon of mass destruction. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend and full election tomorrow.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Sort of a nice, that's a fine place to end, actually, on that idealistic note. Bye-bye to division. Yeah. Bye-bye to ethnic cleavages and all of that. And can we just see this as one? Yeah. It's very, very important. Can we just see it as it's a difficult thing.
The floor of the National Assembly.
Yes, in closing.
In the floor of the National Assembly, the senators don't see themselves from different political parties. They see themselves as senators of the Federal Republic. We should all see ourselves as Nigerians and relate together as one. Politics will come, politics will go. Parties, they may use party to divide us, but we are one Nigeria.
One Nigeria we are indeed. The elections are happening. There's a lot of apprehension, distrust in the air, and it's become almost like the atmosphere in which we must conduct elections. It's the way it's going to be, right?
It
Unfortunately,
it
shouldn't be.
so. It shouldn't be so, and I expect that going forward in future elections. Now, I also expect that the president would sign the amended electoral act, the new electoral act, into law. Because it made some germane provisions that would ensure that our elections going forward, are improved. I expect that going forward that Nigerians would also, gear up to participate in the process and ensure that we have a process that is participatory, free, fair, and credible.
Which will come after people have been as involved as Mr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, and other people want them to be. This whole recruit people, involve them. Mashood, they're squeezing in Mashood. Mashood in Gombe, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Good. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My contribution is that number one, we talk about the organization in concerning the enlightenment, especially like the Noah. They're supposed to put more of enlightenment. If you look at the violence pattern in the last general election, you will discover that the whole northern, let's start from the north central, north south, free area. If you go back to the southeast, you will discover that there is a lot of violence. And all those areas, no agency supposed to go there and carry out full enlightenment. Without this full enlightenment, believe me, there's nothing we can achieve. Just in the 2023, the violence is going to continue in the especially West Point area. Because all those areas, they are still up in mind that the election of when either do or die. Please and please, enlighten, you have to break the NOAA agency so that they focus their enlightenment program before they come to the north. What I was going to say in the south is that in the north, it's only south and other states that used to vote with the election. But you have seen the reality in the election awareness are 2 miles in the north. I want you to put the NOAA out. Let them go on the enlightenment so that by 2023 we are going to have election-free period.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mashood in Gombe. It's
but just to correct a point, there's no major reported case of violence in the southeast throughout the last election period. Please, just to correct a point which you made. Yes,
it's
there's no major.
And that's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
No reported major case.
Major case. Okay. Indeed. Okay. That's the list, in the country so far.
Well, thank you very much. Let's leave that. I think the producers are saying when they few burned ballot boxes here and there, but you're talking about significant violence. But I want to thank you very much, Mr. Jimmy Abia, lawyer and political affairs analyst, and Dr. Jide Johnson.
It's a pleasure to meet you this morning on this morning.
Thank you very much. Our pleasure. So that's our program today. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. And of course, you can take it for granted that TVC News will stay on coverage of the elections for you. So wherever you are, it'll be as if you're actually in those parts where supplementary elections are taking place, and you'll be able to, take your own notes, and then we'll meet again, God willing, on Monday to review the whole process. Have a great weekend.